Assalamu alaikum students, this is Farwa Batul, your O-level computer science instructor, and welcome to another video. So we are going to start programming concepts in this video, and there are 5 basic constructs that you must know before developing a program. The first one is your data use. So in this video, I'm going to talk about data use particularly. So what is a data use? Remember that in any program, we are working on data. Let's suppose it is about a library management system, then we are working on books. If it is about school management system, we are working on schools, students and teachers and the other department. If it is our office, we are working on employees. And if it is any, even a simple work, let's suppose you want to calculate the sum of two numbers. So this is basically the data that we are working on. So remember that when you are making program, there is some need of data that you need to work on. And the important thing is that where is that data will be stored. From where you can get that data, you can store that data, and you can retrieve that data. So that is a question here. So for that, you are going to learn about the data use in programming. Data use means that you are going to store your data, you are going to retrieve your data whenever you want it, and you can update or modify your data according to your need. So how we can do that? We can do with the help of variables. We can do them with the help of constants, and we can also do them with the help of arrays like this. So these are basically the data structures that we use in order to store the data that we want to use in our program. So here particularly I will be talking about two things, variables and constants. So what is a variable? A variable in a computer program is a named data store that contains a value that may change during the execution of a program. Very, very important. Let me quickly tell you about variables first. Variables are the named data stores. So let me just write it here and then I will explain you. Named data stores. So what you can do in your home, we all know that we have a storeroom where we keep our things. So let's assume a room or a place where you are storing your data inside. And you call that, let's suppose you can give it any name. In our home, we call it a store room. Let's take the same example. Variables are just like that. It is the room or it is the space in your memory where you are storing your data. For example, I store my name in a certain place in my memory, and what I do in order to change it or in order to add another name to it, modify it, retrieve my data, or whatever you want to do with your data in the program, how you are going to access this particular location, you can access it by its name. Here it is a storeroom. We call it a storeroom where we keep our things. But here in programming, we give a specific name to the variable where we store our data. And it only depends upon the data that is in that particular space. So if I see that the data inside is the name, so I can simply name this particular box as name. So I will remember that name is my variable where I am going to store the name of a person in my program. And one more thing about variable is that you can change it at any point in your program. It can be changed. Depends upon your need. Let's suppose you were working on Farwa for some time and then you are working on some other person. So what you can do, you can simply modify this box by another name. You can simply rewrite it and write down Fizza. So we can simply change the data that is inside the variable. Keep in mind the name of that location or the variable name will not be changed throughout your program. The name of the variable helps us to access that particular location or the data store. So we will never ever change that name. Only we have to use that particular variable name in order to access the data or change the data or rewrite the data. Or if you want to calculate something, let's suppose, let me give you a simple example of a variable. Let's suppose I want to calculate the area of a triangle, let's suppose. So I have a specific location in the memory where I will be storing the area once I calculate it. Let's suppose it is 25. So basically the name of the variable is area and the value inside the variable is 25 that stores the value of the area. So this is how the variables work in your program. And let's suppose if you have another shape, this is for shape 1, and let's suppose if you have another shape and you want to calculate the area again, so what you will do, you will keep the area, the location will be same, only once you calculate the area you will change the value of variable in, let's suppose now the area becomes 35 or the value is changed for the other shape. So you can simply rewrite in your data store that is named as area. I hope that the variables are clear to you. The good thing about variables is that you can change the values inside them. Now let's quickly move towards constants. Number 2, constants. Just like variables, constants are also named data store that contains a value, but the important thing about constant and the difference about constant is that it is not going to change during the execution of a program. It means if you have a constant named pi, so we know that the value of pi is a constant. It will never change. We will store it as 3.143 and it will remain as it is throughout my program. I will never change it. Constants are never changed. They are only assigned once in your program and then you can use them as much as you want. But you can never modify the values in the constants. So I hope that both of these things are clear to you. Now we will quickly move towards the syntax, that how we can declare these variables and constants in different programming languages. So first I will tell you that how you can use the pseudocode. You can understand the pseudocode because pseudocode is the important thing that you must know. After pseudocode, we will go to a programming language. In my case, I will work on Java. So I will tell you in IDE, that is Intel IG, I'm using for Java, that how we can declare the integers there, how we can change the values of them, and how we can retrieve the values or display them on my screen. So let's just quickly go ahead. Okay, so this is what I have taken from your book, Declarations of Constants and Variables. The important thing you need to know is this one, how you are declaring the constants and the variables. So look at here in the pseudo code, you are using the word declare. With that, it is first word, that is name of your variable, and you specify the data type. The data type is basically the type of data that you will be storing in the variable. So you are going to specify that. So it means this first var if you are specifying first var as an integer value, so it means that it is going to be a whole number that can be positive or that can be negative. But remember that there will be no fractional or decimal part to the number. This is what an integer is. So, similarly, we are declaring another variable that is named as second var, second variable. Then it is also declared as an integer value, which means it will be a number. It can be positive and can be negative. Now let's move towards constants. Look at this. The third and the fourth line is for declaring the constant. Remember that this is the difference between the variable and the constant. When you are declaring the constant, you will be writing the constant word so that you can easily tell the other one or tell the user that this is what I have declared it a constant. This is the difference between the variable and the constant, that the variables are just declared without saying that it is a variable. But when you are declaring the constant, you must specify with the word constant before declaring your constants. So you will write constant first and then you will name your constant, first constant, and then you can assign the value to the constant 500, 100. So this is what you have assigned the value to the constant, because the constants are just assigned once only in the whole program, and it's a good practice to assign the constant at the very start of your program. Once you assign the value to the constant, it will remain same throughout your program. You will never change it. So first const will be 500 and second const will be 100 for the whole program. You can just simply access these values by the name of these constants by using first cont and second cont in your program. Now let's see the different codes in your programming languages. Here we have Python. In Python, if you want to declare the variables, you just name them and just put a value into it. Similarly, you name the constant as first const, second const, and you just put the values into it. Here I want to tell you something, and that is basically the explicit declaration and the implicit declaration. So let me quickly tell you the explicit declaration first. Explicit declaration means that you are going to specify the data type, the data type of your variable before assigning it a value. Before assigning it a value. What it means that you must specify that what type of data will be stored in the variable. If you made a variable, you want it integer value to be stored inside that, you must specify it with integer, with the word integer. Look at the difference between Python and Visual Basic and Java. Let's just compare three of them. So look at this. In Visual Basic, you have written dim first var as integer. So the thing as integer means that it is explicit declaration, explicit. Why? Because you specified the variable as integer. It means that it is going to store an integer value. You didn't assign the value here. You first specified that first var will be as integer. And look at the Java. In the Java, it's written int first var. So basically, int is the keyword for specifying an integer variable or declaring an integer variable. So in both Visual Basic and Java, we are doing explicit declaration for our variables, where we are specifying the variables with the data type. Like we are writing, if it is an integer, write integer with that. If it is a string, write a string with that. If it is a boolean, write boolean with that. So we must know that what type of data will be stored in the variable. Whereas in Python, we are just specifying the value which is known as implicit declaration. Implicit declaration, on the other hand, is the one in which the data type is based on the value assigned. If the first var is assigned a value 20, it means that by default, we will assume that yes, first var is an integer because it is assigned an integer value. Here we are not using the keyword integer. We are just assigning the value, and all of these values determine that what type of variable and constant are these, or what type of data are they going to contain. All of these are having integer values, so by looking at the values, you will assume that these variable and constants have a data type integer. So this is what we call implicit declaration. Let me quickly write it for you. Explicit, where you have to specify using the keyword integer, um, string, character, or boolean. You have to specify the keyword for the variables so that we will know that what value will be assigned there. But in implicit, the value itself, value that is inserted in your variable will specify the data type. By looking at the value assigned to the variable, you will come to know that what type of variable is that. Is it an integer? Is it a string? It's a character? It's a boolean? I will tell you all of these data types in detail in my next video. So here we go. Now let's quickly see the code again. We just compared it in order to let you know about explicit and implicit declaration. Now look at this. This is Python. This is Visual Basic. Here you have two variables, and for constants, you are using the keyword const. So it means that the constants are declared by using the keyword const, and the values will remain same for the whole program. Let's look at Java code. In the Java, it's int first var, int second var, two integers that are variables. For constants, you are using the word final. The keyword final will help us to know that these are the constants that are assigned. The values 500 and 100, and the names of the constants are first const, second const. And remember that it is an explicit declaration where the data int keyword is mentioned before your variable, which shows that these constants are going to hold integer values. So I hope that all of this code is clear to you. Now you can choose any of your favorite programming language in order to just test this particular line of code in that. I'm quickly going towards Intel IG, where I will be using Java language, programming language, to declare my variable and constants, and let me quickly display them for you. Here we go. This is my project hello world that I have created in the previous video, where you must do activity 8.1, the hello world program. I will just use the same one and I will declare my integers and constants here. Let me close that. This is where you have to code. You have to code in the source folder. Look at your left side in the source folder. When you will open it, there is main class. You will open this class. Look at this line of code. Where you have to code inside this main method. This is a method that is just like the name of the class, the main method. We will code inside that. We will just close, we will just erase everything from here and just do it for integers and constants. Okay, so let me just quickly assign the variables first. In Java, we use the word integer. If you want an integer variable, keep the caps lock off. Int, let's name the variable as first var as specified in your book, and let me just assign it a value 20. It is an explicit declaration because the word int is here in order to specify the data type to be stored in the variable. Next, do for the second var, second variable, assign it a value 30. Now let me quickly assign two of the constant values. Use the word final for assigning the constants. Integer is the data type of your constant. It's a good practice if you declare the constants, so name them with capital letters. Either you can use the capital letters or you can use the word const there in the name of the constant, so you will easily remember that this is basically a constant to be used in your program. Int second const, we have specified two constant values and two integer values. Now what I will do, I will quickly write down the output statement so that I can display the values of these integers and constants for you. So it will be system.out. We already did it in the previous video how to display a hello world message. We will use the same command, system.out.print line, then your quotations. The message will be, let's suppose we can write first var has a value, okay, colon here, give a space, and then after the quotations you have to add a plus sign and then the variable whose value you want to be printed. So the variable must be first var. Just make F capital. Here we go, first var. If I will write it like this, it means that first var will be printed just after this colon. After colon, the value of the first var, not the first var as it is. No, not the name of the variable, the value of the variable will be printed here. After value, colon, and then here will be 20 because you have specified that what to do, what to display after colon. You have to display first var value. This plus sign is added in order to specify that you have to print the value of the variable, and this whole thing will be outside your quotations. If you will write it in inside the quotation, then this will be printed as a message. This will whole be a message. First var value will never be printed. Okay, let me just quickly tell you what is the difference. Let's just do it like this. If I write down first var inside, then you will know that what is the difference. Okay, just write down first var as it is, and then in the next line, let me just copy it and then paste the same thing here. I just want to tell you that what is the difference between writing the variable name inside the quotations and writing the variable name outside the quotations. So in the first statement, I will just erase it like this. If you are writing it inside the quotations, the double commas, then it will be displayed as a message. But if you will write it outside the quotations, then the value of the integer will be printed. Let me just quickly run it and tell you that what's the difference. Run it from the green triangle. Press that button at the top of your software. It will run. It will take a few time. Look over here in your result. First var has a value colon first var. The first var is just printed as it is because you have inserted it in the inside the quotations. So it is just like a message that you are displaying to the user. If you want the value, so it needs to be first var has a value, first var, and then this first var value is 20. So after first var, you can see that the value of the variable is printed. Or in other words, I can just simply erase it from here. So you can see that the value of first var will be 20 and it will be printed just after this colon. Let me run it again. I hope that this difference is clear to you. Now look at your result. In order to print or display the value of the integer, you must write down the integer after your double quotations. After your quotations, you must specify the variable outside that. If you will specify the variable inside that, it will never be treated as a variable, it will just be treated as a message. So I hope that the difference is clear. Now let me quickly do it for the other variables as well. Okay, so I'm just going to copy it and I will paste it 3 times. Paste, paste, paste. Now we will change the names as specified above. First war, second war. Let me just change it here. It is very important to change it here because the values will be displayed depending upon the name of the variable that is specified at the end of your statement, output statement. Next, we will display first const and second const. So we can just write down first const has a value this and write down second const. Oh, sorry for this. Let me write it here. Second const has a value this. Now quickly change this first var as first const, name of your constant that you want to show the value of. Then the second const. This is how you display the values of the constants and the variables. You have to specify them outside the quotations. Okay, let me just run the program from the top. Okay, now look at my result. In the result, the first one is first var has a value 20. Look at this. I have specified it 20 value. It is printed like this. Second variable has a value 30. Very good. I assigned it a 30 value in my program. First const has a value 500 and the second const has a value 100. This is how my work will be done. Now, one more thing is that let me change the values of the variables. Remember that you will never change the values of your constants because they will be fixed. They have a one value only throughout your program. It will never be changed. But for integers, let me just reassign them. First var equals to, let's suppose now I will keep it 100. Let's change it. And second var, let me change the second variable value, assign it like, there is no need to write down integer every time. You just need to specify it one times. Here you have specified the variable as integers. Now whenever you want to change their values, you can just simply assign a new value to them. Now let me just quickly copy these two output statements to show you that once I assigned these new values to the variables, now what will happen when I will print them. So look at this. Let me run this program again. Okay, let's wait for the output. Here we go. Now look at your output. This is your 1, 2, 3, 4. The first 4 lines are showing your values as it is. We just saw that. But once you have changed the values of first var 100 and second var 200, so you can just see down here that when it is written after assigning the new values to the variables, now the values are first var has a value 100 and second var has a value 200. So this is how you can reassign the values to the variables, or you can change the values of them, and then you can print it using system.out.print line statement. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope everything is clear to you. In the next video, I will be telling you that what are the other data types that you can use in order to make your variables and change the values inside them. And also the same goes for your constants. The same data types you can assign to the constants as well. So stay tuned, stay connected, and do not forget to subscribe the channel. Bye-bye.